Hello diver friends, I'm Orlando Calvo, the Quant Diver. So I had a recent experience diving my rebreather with a group of open circuit divers. Apologies for the title of this video, which is ridiculous. It's not for you, it's for the algorithm. The algorithm loves death and injury. Anyway, so in this dive, I am on my rebreather. Everybody's taking it easy on their open circuit gear, and we go down. And my computer, since my training, I've set it up so that I'm at 0.7 PO2 on at the surface, and once I reach the bottom, I go to 1.3 PO2. And I hesitated because I was only gonna be making a shallow dive. Like, do I really need it at 1.3? Probably not. I'm not gonna go into deco, especially with other single tank open circuit divers. But my decision was to just set it to 1.3. What the hell? So I set it to 1.3 once I reached the bottom at like 50 feet. And we look around. There's a school bus. It's we do our thing in this point of the dive, and then we continue. And so the dive plan, at least the way I heard it, we were going up from this 50 feet to 30 feet. We're to an area that we call the island, where there's a Cessna. And so we're looking at the Cessna. It's great. And then I see the dive master going to the other side of the island and then going back down. And so if you're a experienced rebreather diver, you already know what the issue for me is. But basically, I'm running a 1.3 PO2 at 30 feet, and now we're gonna go back down and we're gonna go to 50 feet again. And so the partial pressure of oxygen is just gonna go up once I start descending. Unless I clear the oxygen of my loop, which would require me to do a dill flush, which at this point, to be honest, I'm not thinking of. I don't see any problem. I'm just gonna go back down because I'm a new rebreather diver, and follow these guys. So we're going back down, and all of a sudden I hear my vibration, and I never hear a vibration, so my alarms are off on my dive computer. So if I get a vibration, I immediately look at that because it can't be good. I have no idea what's gonna show on my computer, but when I look at it, it's pretty clear, high PO2. So the PO2 is like 1.7, I think is the first thing I saw. So 1.7, that's not a PO2 I want to keep. I still had some ways down to go. I'm frozen in the water column at this point. And then I have to think. And then I think, what am I gonna do? So dill flush, that's comes into my mind immediately. I'm really happy about that. It's really good to put the skills to the test. But I see the group ahead of me, and there's an algae bloom that had started in the lake, and by this point the algae bloom was sinking, and basically at this point I can almost see everybody like starting to disappear. So my calculation is, between closing my oxygen tank, starting the dill flush, reopening it, and then following them, I'm not gonna find them. So at that point, I did set my set point to 0.7, but I still had to clear the loop. And so at that point, I decide my dive is over, I'm gonna go back up. So I start going back up, my PO2 begins to decrease to safe levels, and I see a rope, leading to the surface, I know I have to take it because they're gonna be up there looking for me. So one of the things I wanted to do in this dive was to practice my buoyancy during my ascent on my rebreather. I do that to the best of my ability, but I don't do a safety stop because I don't want them to be looking for me at the surface and not seeing me. So I ascend at a safe rate and without the safety stop, and once I'm up there, they don't even know I'm missing. They don't see anything wrong until I don't know when, but they ended their dive when they should have, and they look for me on the surface later, and I say from the shallow dock area, like, hey, I'm here. But I'm glad that they had a nice dive. I had a great dive. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better training rebreather dive that I did on my own last weekend. It was a great lesson, and so I wanted to show you basically what that looks like when you look at my data. So let's have a look, okay? Okay, so here we're gonna go into the code, and we're gonna inspect the data from this dive I just talked about, and we're gonna see two things. What did that spike look like, and also what would have happened if I had run my PO2 at 0.7 rather than 1.3. So basically, when I ended the dive, I thought my lesson was to do a dill flush. However, in this case, what I should have done was just had my PO2 set to 0.7 from the get-go. So what I have here is a question I'm gonna write to the AI. I'm gonna say, in my last CCR dive, I had a PO2 spike. It was at about 20 minutes into the dive. Show me the PO2 spike on a graph against depth, and also show me my what if PO2 if I had ran my set point at 0.7. Okay, so we're gonna let the AI do its thing. If this is new to you, basically there's a link in the description to how to get this set up so that it goes through your data and answers this question. So, okay, friends, the AI is finally done. It took a while. Let's see what it came up with. Here we have some nice graphs, okay, but it doesn't answer the question I asked. What I see here is this is my depth. We're going down all the way down to 50 feet. Then I have my PO2 spike here. It pointed it out. It says 1.78. That's what I got at 46 feet. Okay, then I started to come back up and my PO2 dropped as expected. So that answered only part of the question, but it's pretty cool that, you know, the AI was able to generate this. This is pretty remarkable, actually. Here I have another graph that I didn't ask for, but whatever. The AI is not perfect, and look at all this code it wrote. We don't need this. Let me just take over, you know, this code here and get us the graph I really wanted to show you. So I'm just gonna delete all of this. Okay. So I have my dive client and I want my last CCR dive. So I go CCR dive equals dive client punto get primary computer dives. So this function will group all of my dives. When you dive a CCR, you dive with many computers. So every computer, it has its own dive. Here I get all of the dives that are from a primary computer. Okay, so then I have my primary computer dives, and I say for I in if I.mode equals CCR. And then I get the first one or the last one. I don't know. So this is my CCR dive. It's either the first or the last. So I'm just gonna check out what that looks like. So this is, so what I want to do is get the last on the list, just the way it's sorted, and this is the dive I want. Okay, so now with this dive, I will do the following. From dive log pi dot plotting import plot what if set point. And so plot what if set point, it takes in my CCR dive time series data, and it takes in the set point I want to look at and the time in seconds at which I want to unlock it. So that's where we go from a set point to a free floating Po2 with depth. So let's see what that looks like. Here it is. This is, I said I gave it the wrong set point. Okay, there we go. We have our dive. We're up at about 15 feet. That's the little island here. I had said before that was 30 feet. It's 15 feet. And I ran a PO2 at that point of 1.27. Before I started going down, I went down to 50 feet and my PO2 was at 1.82. That's the maximum it got. And that's when I started taking measures to lower it. So I do remember starting a PO2 flush, a dill flush, when I realized I'm gonna lose everybody in the group before I'm done. So I started heading up, and you can see here that, you know, this was all about in the space of a minute when I decided that I would start going up, and I head back to the surface. If my PO2 had run at 0.7, then once we start descending, it would have gone all the way up to 1.15, 16, and no more than that. Perfectly within safe limits. I would have been able to continue the dive, no problem. Okay, lesson learned. All right, guys, thanks for watching all the way to the end. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, like and subscribe. If you didn't, unlike. It's all good. The algorithm likes the unlikes too. I guess I can't ask you to subscribe if you didn't like it, but thanks for watching, and if you have any comments, let me know.